everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I ended up reading in January and those that I hope to read in February. So January was a bit of a crazy month. I started off with finishing the book within the first couple days of January, but there ended up being kind of a family emergency, so because of that I didn't get a lot of reading time in. And so luckily the medical issue has been handled, everyone's safe, but that was very stressful. I was so tired from that experience that I was literally falling asleep on the couch after work. That's how tired I was. So my reading took a hit this month for sure, but I definitely think that those months are okay. I have to prioritize my my mental health, my physical health over if I need to sleep or whatever. So I'm okay with that, even though I didn't start off the year as as strong as I wanted to. I'm okay with all of that. So the way this video is going to be kind of structured, there are going to be a lot of repeats basically of what I wanted to read in January going into February. So it'll be kind of a repeat of that stuff, but I'm also doing a separate TBR because I'm going on my honeymoon in February, so I have a separate TBR for that. So without further ado, let's get started. So the only book that I ended up reading in January was The Secret War of Julia Child by Diana R. Chambers, and this is a book that my then fiance, now husband, picked out for me when actually I was going to a dress fitting. He was walking around town and saw this at the bookshop and he picked it out for me, and so I said this would be my Christmas break read, and so I finished, I was reading it over the end of December or into early January. And it is, I want to emphasize, fictionalized. It's a fictionalized kind of telling of Julia Child's time in the OSS during World War II, specifically kind of looking at kind of India and China and her experience there. But like I said, it's very fictionalized. She takes a lot of liberties because Julia Child, a lot of this stuff was very classified, so there really isn't a lot of stuff out there. So she's kind of hypothesize what would be taking place while Julia Child is working for the OSS, during this time period. And I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed several aspects of this book, but there were some kind of issues that I had. In particular, I did really enjoy getting to know a little bit more of the fictionalized version of Julia Child, but it was really enjoyable to me. I really love World War II historical fiction, but I don't really read a lot of books set in this time period that take place in China, India, and I feel too in school a lot of what was going on in that side of the world was kind of glossed over in my history classes. So it was interesting to kind of learn more about what was actually going on during this time period. So it was very interesting learning about that. I think that was my favorite part. And there are parts of this book that I really got into, if there's someone who is, spying on the OSS, is there a mole and kind of all that stuff. But I felt this book did have some pacing issues. And I feel it'd be the mole figuring out all that stuff would be really fast paced, and then nothing happens for several chapters. So the pacing of this was just a little bit off, and I think that's why I gave it the 3 out of 5 stars. And I think it was just a little bit too kind of all over the place in terms of the pacing, as it doesn't want to be a kind of espionage spy book, a historical fiction, or kind of a romance between that takes place between her and Paul Child. So it was I think it didn't know what it wanted to be, and I think that was kind of shown within the pacing of this. So despite that, I still really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a lot of fun, and like I said, if you read a lot of historical fiction, especially World War II historical fiction, this kind of covers an area outside of Europe and the US that I think would be really interesting to learn about, and I think that was my favorite part. So like I said, February is going to be a bit of a crazy month. So our honeymoon is from February 7th through the 21st, and then we're home for a couple days, and then on that Tuesday we fly out to Atlanta for a conference. So we're only going to be home for a little bit, so I really don't know how much reading I can get done in February as well, but I'm still going to try. And this is currently the book that I'm reading right now, and I have about 150 pages left, and my goal is to finish it before we go on our honeymoon. And like I said, I have a separate TBR for my honeymoon that will be coming out, I think, next week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That's why this TBR is a little bit on the shorter end. But what I'm currently reading right now is The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent. This is the kind of second book or the first book, sorry, in like a spin-off duology for the Serpent and the Wings of Night kind of duology. So I think there's going to be 3 duologies within this world, and it's essentially a continuation of the overarching storyline within this world, and each kind of duology focuses on a new couple. So because this is a duology that's kind of a continuation of the first one, I don't really want to spoil what this one's about, but it follows Misha, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, after the events of the first duology. So this kind of, the first book follows this girl who is a human living in a vampire kingdom, and she's kind of been adopted by one of the vampire kings, and she plans to compete in this trial where if she wins, she gets kind of a wish granted by the kind of vampire goddess, and so it kind of goes off from there. This does skew a little bit more on the romantic-y side, just so you're aware. I'm like I said, I've gotten like maybe 3/4 of the way through, and there's only been like really one brief like paragraph of this, so this one it hasn't been as spicy as the other ones so far, but I feel like if you like a lot of the ACOTAR tropes, you would kind of like this series. I haven't, like, it's not like, you know, amazing, doesn't blow my mind, but I do enjoy it when I read it. They're like a solid 3 to 3.5 star read, so they're enjoyable. Like, I don't expect to, you know, be obsessed with them like I have been with like ACOTAR or, you know, Court of Mist and Fury, but they're still fun reads. So yeah, like I said, this one I'm just kind of reading, and I plan to finish it on my honeymoon. So hopefully, fingers crossed, if I do read all the books on my honeymoon, this is the one that I want to read. But this has been a carryover for many TBRs, and I do want to prioritize it. It's just been so busy, basically. But it is The Courting of Bristol Keats by Mary E. Pearson. I really love Mary E. Pearson. She is the author of Revenant Chronicles, which was my favorite, at the time, my favorite fantasy trilogy. I want to say back like 10 years ago or so. Like, I really loved it when they came out, and this is her newest book. This is actually, I think, a duology or a trilogy. I know there's like a second book that's been announced already. I thought this was a standalone, so I was a little bit surprised by that. But it's this girl whose parents have passed away, but she is trying to really care for her and her siblings, but she finds out that her father may still be alive and maybe had some minglings with the Fae world, and it kind of goes from there. And this draws the attention of, I believe, a Fae prince or something, and it kind of goes from there, where she kind of has to kind of bargain with that Fae leader. I'm really interested because she's done kind of the Revenant Chronicles, and like the Dance of Thieves duology is very interesting because it's clearly placed in our world after kind of, I don't know, like a mass nuclear war or like a mass war or something, and then there's some kind of magical aspects thrown in, and so this is her first foray into kind of a Fae fantasy novel, so I'm very interested to see how I feel about this. So I'm definitely really excited. It's been a while since I've read a book from her, so I'm excited to kind of dive into her kind of writing style again to see how I feel about this one. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books you plan on reading in February and all that fun stuff. Don't forget to check out my honeymoon TBR. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.